Hey guys, HuShang here. Welcome to another StarCraft 2 lesson. We're going to be looking at a very common problem I am hearing from Zerg players. It's a problem against late game Skytoss. I actually did a video a couple weeks ago maybe of a Zerg player not sure what to do against Skytoss, but this time we have a replay. So I'm going to be able to show you guys exactly what to do against these endgame protoss players. And I think that's going to be super helpful. I think there's a lot of common mistakes people are making. So this is going to be, an insight into how you want to play late game. All right, so we are opening up with a hatch first, super standard. We're going to take our gas after that and then grab our pool. Nothing out of the ordinary. This game was played on stream, so there might be a couple more mistakes than usual, but overall, this is going to be a really good example replay. And you guys can check out my Twitch stream in the description. If you aren't following already, get on that. Okay, first Overlord going to their natural. Second Overlord, actually a bit of a mistake already. Should be hovering over our second base. It's not going to come into play this game because this protoss has aims of going into carriers and void rays. But of course, if he was cannon rushing us, we might be in trouble here. Now I'm going to grab a very fast third. This isn't required, but I really like this opening. It gives you some nice advantages, I find, compared to the standard double queen before third. One of which is that you're going to have your creep faster at that third base, and so you can get some creep tumor down over there a little bit sooner. Another advantage is that, surprisingly, it's actually more difficult to block it. You'd think me taking it earlier makes it easier to block, but actually the protoss is usually still in your base checking your gas and stuff like that, so they tend to just not block it. So that's nice. Because he doesn't block it, we also don't need to make any Zerglings as well for a little bit longer. So some nice little perks, but both builds are pretty solid. You can go either one. We're going to chase this probe away, and we're going to actually plant on a creep tumor with that first queen. So because we have, that extra third base larva, we don't even need to inject right away. You can see in the protoss base, we saw the Stargate. So this doesn't mean he's going to be playing late game Stargate. Obviously, this could be something more ground-based as well. There's a lot of openings where, you open up with one Void Ray or an Oracle and then transition into some ground-based armies. And there's a lot of variation there as well. So, in this position of the game where we're still pretty basic, we know that we're going to need some Spore Crawlers pretty soon. And we know that he's, not going to have Dark Templar or anything like that, but we don't really know what his intentions are after this. So you can see here I've droned really hard on the minerals. That's not really the topic of the video, but making lots of drones from minerals before you mine gas is such a critical concept that I feel like I'm repeating over and over, but it's one of those things that I see so often that I think it is worth repeating. If you're mining more gas than I am here, you're making a huge mistake. So he comes to harass us a little bit with the Void Ray, but it's just one for now, so not too scary. I'm gonna grab this Overlord speed really quick. I think this is quite strong against Void Ray builds because there's a lot of options that they can go for behind this. This is also a critical scout with the links. It's very important that you do that so that you know which possible builds it could be. So for example, if he has a late third, it could be something like an adept attack behind this. But in this case, probably not an adept attack. His third base was on time. This was a little bit sketchy because my queens weren't together right on time, but it turned out okay. Actually really good for us. So Overlord speed just finished. We're going to sneak in here. We see the Stargates building Void Rays still. So that's indicating to me that he's playing Skytoss. But we would like to confirm with a, by seeing maybe a second Stargate. I also notice his Warp Gate right there. Not his Warp Gate, his Cybercore is still researching. And it's 5 minutes and 30 seconds into the game. So that's actually pretty abnormal. At this point, he shouldn't really be researching anything. So that's most likely an air upgrade. And so that's just, you know, leading me to believe that he's playing Skytoss here. However, I didn't quite get the perfect scout, so I'm actually going to send in another Overlord right now. You can see it just leaving my third base location. And I'm going to try and confirm he's playing Skytoss. Now, another mistake I made here is I'm getting my lair quite late. What I would want to do ideally is get the Overlord speed with the first 100 gas and then the lair with the second 100 gas. So not quite perfect. We want that a little faster, but since we got his 2 Void Rays earlier, I think it's not a huge deal actually. Okay, my Overlord's flying in again. I actually miss rally this as well, so I don't quite see the second Stargate, but we are going to see something else that's basically going to confirm it for us that he's playing late game. So right here, you're going to see me check my Overlord. Hopefully. I guess we're a little busy. In a second, we definitely will. Okay, so we do see some cannons there. I didn't see the tech, right? But I do see all these cannons going down, as well as the +1 attack earlier. So there's enough information here that we know he's playing Skytoss. Even though ideally we would have liked to see the second Stargate. So from here, I'm deciding what to do. And you kind of need to have some, maybe like a plan beforehand to make it easier. But my plan this game is to go into the end game very fast. You can see we're still making drones, and I'm actually going to be making Zerglings. Now this is the first thing I want to talk about today. The Zergling is one of the best counters against Skytoss, which sounds insane because Zerglings can't hit air units. But when you play Skytoss, one of the main weaknesses you have is a low gateway count. You also don't have any upgrades for those gateway units that you're going to be making. And so because of that, it's actually very difficult to get your army back and forth to defend your bases. And so that's one of the main reasons he's building all these cannons, but it's not entirely solid. So we're going to try to exploit that as best we can with these Zerglings. So that's part of it. The other part is that the Zergling doesn't cost any gas. So because it doesn't cost any gas, it's going to let us develop a nice bank for these tech units that we're going to want in the late game. If we were to do this with something like roaches, we'd probably accomplish the same thing, but we'd be using a ton of our gas that we really want for these tech units. So you got to be careful making something like a roach here instead. So some more Zerglings. You can see that my gas bank is quite high right now. We're up to 1,000, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. You might also notice that we don't have, you know, any units besides this really small group of Hydras. Like I don't have 50 Hydras here. And that's another really important thing. If you make too many Hydras and your plan is to go into endgame, you're going to be set up in such a terrible position and you're going to think Skytoss is broken. So it's really, really important that you don't make too many Hydras. In fact, I don't even want these Hydras for Hydras. I just have these Hydras to make them into lurkers later. That's literally their purpose in life, is to be made into lurkers. Okay, we're poking around here. We see the carriers. We see that he's pretty defended on this side, so I'm going to rotate to the right side now. We have 2-2 on the way. Notice I don't have any armor upgrades. Okay, why do I not get any armor upgrades? Well, one is I want to have Ling upgrades for these Lings. And I want to have ranged upgrades for the Lurkers. And Honestly, the armor upgrades are pretty bad against protoss, so they're not really worth the money. I'd rather make more lurkers at this point in the game, or some corruptors, which you can see me making right now. So basically, we just didn't make a lot of key units in this mid game, and this might seem risky. I think that's the reason people don't do this, is because it seems like it's dangerous to not have units. Like, what if he pushes across the map right now, you know? But that's not really possible. Like, protoss doesn't actually have a big army. It's not that scary. And if he does push across the map, like he's doing now, we can instantly make, you know, 20 corruptors. And you're going to see that this is just not a good play from protoss. So it's actually a mistake for protoss to play like this. So it's something you don't really need to be worried about. We kill, you know, a couple void rays, some carriers. And now that I have control of the skies, I'm going to start making some lurkers here, expecting him to be going into some ground units. And I want to use these to take down some cannons. So we're going to start our offensive now that we have a good position. And right here is probably the... well, I was going to say the most important thing in this matchup. Maybe it's second most important. Most important is making Zerglings and saving your gas, I'd say. But this is also very important. Coming to the main with your corruptors, where the protoss air stargates are set up, so that you can pull him at a position. And you want to camp his production. So the protoss army wants to be over here on the right side defending his bases. And if you do that and you try to, you know, just throw your whole army at his army, you're going to get owned. So you want to pull him back and forth and get nice trades. So now that his army is defending this Ling Lurker, I can come in with the Corruptors, and if any carriers pop, they just immediately get killed by the Corruptors. Another thing we did was we used the Corrosive Bile on the Nexus. So we're really putting a ton of pressure on him in this main base, and it's quite difficult for him to go back and forth. It's also quite difficult for him to split up his army, because Protoss armies really want to be together. So he's done a desperation counterattack here. This is kind of nice for us, because now we get to use our Spore Crawlers. And carriers by themselves, surprisingly bad against Corruptors. You might have the impression that Corruptors are not good against carriers, because you might have been playing, you know, with too many Hydras in the mid game and just have not enough resources or upgrades. But Corruptors are actually insane against carriers. They literally don't die. You actually need Archons or Void Rays or Storm plus the carriers. If you don't have that, you're gonna get owned by pure Corruptor. So we're able to deny his base again. And we've really put him in a pretty much losing position. He can't really take another base because he doesn't have any gateway units, so he's got to really rely on these cannons. And so killing that last base was actually the nail in the coffin. But now we're going to keep pressing forward slowly and just keep constricting his economy here. You can see our upgrades are finishing up as well. So we have +2 air armor and +2 attack, which are, again, quite a big deal against endgame Skytoss. I'm gonna use this use this bile right now. Or not corrosive bile. What? I think I called it corrosive bile earlier. What is this? Caustic spray. What am I saying? This caustic spray ability is actually OP. So if you're not using that, make sure you're using it. It's actually nuts. Especially when Protoss is playing air. Because what are they going to do? Are they going to warp in Stalkers? Of course not. Stalkers are like the worst units in the game. So they can't do that. And their Void Rays and their carriers are defending your army. So they're basically just going to lose their Nexus. And if they do try to defend, again, you can just kill their 4th. So it really puts them in such a hard position where they have to split with an army that's really, really bad against splitting. So he tries some desperate, some Zealot counterattacks here, but we've basically killed him here. So hopefully you guys learned a lot in this game. I think this was a very instructive game. Although we did make some mistakes, I think this should help you see what you're doing wrong in endgame ZVP. And yeah, hopefully you start winning those endgames. So thanks for watching. the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget that we are now streaming. So if you want to catch that, go follow my Twitch and turn on the alerts. Alright guys, we'll just watch this end of the game here, but he is basically dead. He's on 66 supply. I think these lurkers are going to seal the deal actually. I mean, his main is dead. We keep denying his natural, so there's really nothing he can do. And there we go. GG is called. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace.